I'd like to say something funny and motivational, but all I got today is cancer sucks.
I have no objections there, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine you would. Yeah, no, the reason I'm starting saying that, because this is probably the worst I felt for one of our recordings in, I think, 18 episodes. This is the 18th episode, I believe.
You mean physically and emotionally?
Well, yeah, exactly. As you know, I got out of chemo 3 days ago on Thursday. We're recording this on a Sunday. And so, yeah, this is not the greatest I felt, as we'll see through the episode. I got a little bit of bad news this week, but I don't want to spoil things too much. Let's leave the bad news for later.
Let's leave him hanging.
Exactly.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I don't know what he looks like, but you have someone in the room.
Yes, there is someone filming right now. It's the Swiss National News, actually, interested in our little show.
So there is a news crew right off camera, right next to you, filming you right now.
A small news crew, exactly. We might see him walk behind, who knows?
Cool.
People listening to the podcast won't, though, of course.
I'm excited to see whether or not you'll get stage fright in your parents' living room.
I very much doubt it.
All right.
You know me.
I know you. So, all right, this might be the first episode a lot of viewers/listeners catch. So should we do a gigantically quick recap?
So you want to try that?
Yes. So Joseph has cancer. That's the problem. The end. No.
I think that works. I've had this for a year. We're getting up onto 10 months of my diagnosis. And we've been doing our little show now for 10 months.
Yeah.
And so thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to the show, of course. Thank you.
We have tried to the best of our abilities, attack the subject at hand with a sense of humor. But then again, like you warned everyone about, this is a dark episode. So strap in, folks.
But there are some funny things to start with. As I was mentioning in the last episode, I'm getting on to a year of my diagnosis, and I want to do a 1-year birthday for my cancer.
Yes.
And we asked for some food suggestions that would be fun to serve at a testicular cancer party. People had some pretty good suggestions, like some ball-oney sandwiches.
Nice.
Some balsamic vinegar, Hardball tea, or even I quite like the idea of... I like the idea of Ferrero Rocher because they're spherical like a testicle and they contain nuts.
And you can't just have one.
Well, I've just got one.
That's true. But I mean, I bought some Ferrero Rocher recently. I was trying to eat just one. And then 15 minutes later, I was lying like a ball, ironically, in the corner, having eaten the entire pack.
I also ended up lying like a ball on the floor this week a couple of times, but I'll get to that later, as I said. Just to sort of get back where we were last time, we recorded about 2 weeks ago. I had just been released from a chemo that didn't happen because I had a cough problem they wanted to look into and a sore arm. Mm-hmm. Neither of those that wasn't scripted. Neither of those problems have really been addressed yet. I've still got this cough that's now been going on for 3-4 weeks. That is quite exhausting. Mm-hmm. Sort of the constant itch in the back of the throat, the constant need to cough. But I've basically been told there's not much they can do because it's cancer related and not a normal kind of cough. So that kind of sucks. But so yeah, when I got out of the hospital 2 weeks ago, pretty much the day before we recorded the last episode, and then I had a couple of funny days because my painful arm, it was really this excruciating pain behind the shoulder that would sort of radiate into the arm. And a good friend of mine who lives down the street, I know, has lots of good pain meds. So I called him and said, "Hey, do you think you can bring me anything that would relieve the pain? Because I can't take it anymore." I mean, it was literally keeping me up at night. And he said, "Sure." Packed a bag full of hard drugs. And in the 15 minutes that took, I fell asleep like a rock. He came to my place. He rang the doorbell multiple times. He phoned me multiple times. He went to my neighbors, said, "Do they have a key?" They couldn't. And he got worried, thinking I'd had a heart attack or died or something. Uh-huh. And so he smashed in my door.
Cool.
Yeah, that did wake me up. It was suddenly somebody in my hallway. I was like, "How did you get here?" He said, "Well, I smashed in your door."
Did he kick it up or did he throw himself on it with his shoulder?
It was the shoulder. He's got good shoulders. And luckily, maybe this worked. I mean, this played into the decision to do that, is that his job is fixing houses and stuff. So he then came back the next day and fixed my door.
Nice. So he knew the pressure points.
I guess so. It wasn't very hard to, when you look at the broken door, it wasn't closed by much. It's just one little piece of wood and two nails that really had to be knocked out.
So it's potentially easy to break in your place.
Yeah, you'd have to get into the front door first anyway. And then if you get in there, there's not much to steal, so it's not really worth it. Then I think it was even the same day. That was another fun thing. I went out for dinner with a friend, decided to go home, and at about 10, I was in the bus going home, and this weird drug-addicted drunk guy starts yelling. And I didn't realize at first, but he was yelling at me. And then he came up to me, and apparently 10 years ago, I humiliated him. And so because of that, he started screaming in my face that, "Oh, he's glad. Oh, you look sick. I hope you're going to die. I'll come take a piss on your grave." And he yelled at me for like 10 minutes. I got out of the bus. He followed me yelling into the train station because I got out before my stop. I didn't want to end up on my street just with him. And he continued yelling all sorts of horrible things, that I deserve to die, that I shouldn't be wasting other people's breath. And the reason is that 10 years ago, apparently, I don't remember it, apparently he was in a bar where I worked, having a drink with a girl, and he pissed his pants, and I made a comment on it, and that humiliated him.
Wow.
I do think maybe the pissing his pants might have been the humiliating part, but what do I know?
That is insane. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, what's weird?
That's beyond weird. That's just...
Yeah.
Can you remember what you said 10 years ago?
I know the guy because he's a well-known idiot of the town, I'd say. I do not remember the situation at all. I remember he was annoying. I remember I had to throw him out of the bar a few times back in the day. But other than that, nope. But luckily for me, at the train station, there was the police, so they just walked out of the store while he was yelling at me. Then he tried to become all calm. He was like, "No, I'm just talking to this man." They were like, "We can hear you yelling from inside the station, sir." And then he tried to explain, to justify himself by saying, "No, but you don't get it. I used to be addicted to drugs and pee myself, and he humiliated myself." It didn't help his cause.
Really?
Absolutely.
This sounds like a bad sketch in a poorly written sketch show.
Yeah, pretty much. And they asked me if I wanted to press charges or something. Of course, I didn't. I just said, "Well, I wouldn't mind you keep an eye on him until I get into the next bus."
I'm no fan of violence, but if I happen to hit him with a car the next time I'm in Switzerland, is that a problem?
Nah, I think quite a few of my friends said things to the same effect.
All right.
And everybody here knows who he is, so he might end up in trouble. I hope not. I don't condone violence, as you say. But so that was the start of Easter weekend, actually.
That is fucking insane.
A nice start to the weekend, which then I spent basically lying in bed agonizing all weekend because of this terrible shoulder. It was literally, it felt like I had a knife in my shoulder.
And that's an infection, right? Because of the low...
Probably not. The thing is, it was really, really painful. And I used some pain meds that my friend brought, did some stuff. It helped a little. And then on the Tuesday morning after Easter Monday, I just could not take it anymore. Lucky for me, my oncologist was on holiday. My GP couldn't see me for a couple of days. So I went to the ER, which is always fun.
And you had to wait for 1,000 years, right?
Well, I spent 6 hours there.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Basically for them to give me aspirin and anti-inflammatory drugs. Ugh. And also they sent me to a physiotherapist a couple of days later. But so first, luckily I've got friends in the medical community. So I went to see an osteopath friend who did some stuff that relieved the pain for a few hours. And then that night it was back. The next day I went to see a physio, and that was the best, I think. That was like 10 days ago. She worked on my I don't know if it's called that, the trapezoidal, something like that, muscle behind the shoulder. Uh-huh. And she worked on that, and I was able to sleep quite a bit better for the next 2 days. Funny enough, you're asking if it's an infection. Nobody really gave me an explanation until last night. Last night I had dinner with another osteopath friend.
You know a lot of osteopaths.
Yeah. And so after dinner, I was lying on the couch and he was feeling me up or doing stuff to me. And he just figures it's all related to the operation I had in January. You know, I had the lobectomy.
Yeah.
And so he says, basically, I'm probably just closing this side of myself, trying to protect that, adding tension here all the time, and that's what it is. And so it's basically to try now, and if I can, he was saying, think about that when I lie down, think and sort of open up my shoulders, try and relax as much as possible.
It's like you're making it worse by subconsciously being tense.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now I'm going to try and bear that in mind. And lucky for me, tomorrow morning I get to see the physio again. So hopefully that'll help.
Okay.
So that was what happened during my 2 weeks of what was supposed to be rest.
But
during,
just one more question on the arm.
Sure.
Was it specifically that side for a reason, or could it have been either side?
Well, he figures it's that side because that's the side I had the lung operated on.
Uh-huh.
And he figures it's just a sort of logical, normal reaction to close yourself up to try and protect that part of your body.
Okay.
Because you're afraid of feeling pain, and then you end up just causing more pain, which is smart the way we're built.
But still, fucking painful then.
Yeah, that was my 2 weeks of rest until I started chemo again, which wasn't so restful. And then exactly 6 days ago, last Monday, I went back into the hospital for what was round 4 of TIP protocol chemo.
Yeah.
Which I've already done 3 of. And so I wasn't feeling great. I was tired. I still had this cough when I came into the hospital. And it was at least nice to be once again surrounded by the great nurses who all know me and are all, I don't know if you can say they were happy to see me because they'd probably rather I don't come back to the hospital, but they set me up in a new room. Sadly, not a room by myself. I had another interesting neighbor.
Yet another one to the House of Horrors.
Well, he wasn't that bad. He was one of the better ones because he didn't actually bother me much. He was the spitting image of Santa Claus.
Okay.
In a diaper with penis problems.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Well, the first day, about every 2 hours, people would walk in and be like, "Hello, sir, how's the penis?" I had to sort of stop myself from laughing every time because that wouldn't have been very nice. But other than that, he mostly kept quiet, except when he watched the nightly news, which he put on full blast.
All right.
Like full blast, because he was also deaf. So it wasn't just that they came in actually and said, "How's the penis?" They came in and said, "How's the penis?"
So you could have laughed and he wouldn't have heard you.
I hadn't even thought of that. I should have. You're absolutely right. I could have laughed. That would have been fine.
You could have screamed of laughter. But so he had a problem with his penis then.
I guess so.
And that's the reason why he was in the hospital.
Yeah, I didn't ask more. I don't want to know what people's are up with their penises, especially not Saint Nick's.
So what's the question in French? How's the penis again?
Comment ça va la verge?
I'll start saying that on a regular basis to my friends.
In the hospital, I figured I'd be able to get physio every day for my shoulder. And they sent me a physiotherapist. You know what he made me do the first day?
No.
Bike for 10 kilometers.
That sounds insane to me.
Like in a nice, comfortable exercise bike, sitting down, I did 10 kilometers. And I told him, I guess I'm maybe turning into Lance Armstrong more and more as the days go by.
Was this... We talked about Lance Armstrong in the previous episode. Was this before that?
No, this has been since that.
Yeah, but...
We've talked about Lance Armstrong a lot.
Yeah, but you went on an exercise bike at a doctor's thingy after we spoke about Lance in the last episode. What are the odds of that?
I don't know. I think we spoke about it we spoke about it last time because I had no hair left on my legs. And
Yes.
that's still the case. No hair on my legs. I did 10 kilometers and I have 0 Tour de France titles. So that makes us 2 peas in a pod or 2 balls in a sack, one could say.
So that was to check your lungs, because otherwise it would have been just torture for a cancer patient.
Yeah, it wasn't even really to check them. It was to exercise my lungs.
Because your lungs are being lazy?
I guess, and because they're weak.
Uh-huh.
Because they're being attacked by the cancer. And so he did afterwards also give me a kind of shoulder massage thing, not to minimize what he did, which was quite nice. And so I did that for a couple of days.
Does that mean you should exercise a little bit every now and again to keep your lungs healthy, or?
Well, yeah, but they were already happy. They know that compared to some chemo patients or cancer patients, I do try and get my 10,000 steps a day in. Mm-hmm. At least walk. I mean, I'm not doing any running. You're not going to see me on a tennis court anytime soon. But I do try and get some exercise at least, as far as I can.
Okay.
And so, yeah, this round 4 of chemo, the one thing was slightly worrying is I was told it was going to be stronger than the last 3. Since I dealt with them pretty well, it was stronger. But not all that much because there's not that much room not much wiggle room apparently. But they put a higher dose, and I started, and Monday I was feeling fine as usual, or as good as can be actually. And I still have this cough problem, and they were all wondering, what is this cough problem? And one of the things they thought it might be was a pulmonary embolism.
And what is that again?
Since when do I have answers to your medical questions?
Fair. Next question.
It's something in the lungs. Pulmonary means lungs. Something bad in the lungs. Your dad can explain it to you next week.
All right.
And so they did a scanner for that, and came back the next day. So this is day 2 of the chemo. The doc came back, and he said, well, it's not a pulmonary embolism, which I guess was good news, but the actual news was worse, because that's all they were looking for. But what the scan did show was the 2 tumors in the 2 things that have metastasized in my lungs. That, remember last week we said they got way smaller and everybody was happy?
Yeah.
Well, they blew up again.
Which is not
good. They got big, and I mean, the doctor told me that he was extremely surprised. He never expected that. He said he's never seen it, and that he was quite worried. He and all the experts he spoke to were worried about what that meant for the future. He even, which is a first for me in 10 months, he put his hand on my shoulder, which wasn't that, I guess, supposed to be reassuring, but to me, the fact it was the first time he did this, I was like, ew, this shit's getting real.
Yeah, that's not good. But these thingies blew up in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, 3, I think, because the previous scanner had been done on the 30th of March, I believe, and they had a major response, as he called it. They were 2/3 smaller, and 3.5 weeks later, they were there and getting bigger again, and so he was really, the thing was they had to do something quick. He had several options, but he obviously had to talk about it with various people. He was thinking to maybe change the chemo to something stronger. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to find out if he could start that like directly after my 3 days of this chemo, or at least the Monday, so tomorrow. But he then had to talk to various people, the pharmacist notably, about the toxicology, to see if toxicological to see if that would be too toxic or not. I'll try and speak correctly now. And basically was told he couldn't start that right away. He would have gone to another protocol called VIP instead of TIP, which sounds fancy, but I guess isn't. And so that wasn't possible.
Because that would have been too much for your system, or?
Exactly. It would be much too much. I wouldn't be able to take it. So he decided that I'm going to have to do what he called high-density chemo, basically, which will be higher doses, more of it, less rest.
All right.
Which sounds really fun.
It sounds like garbage.
Oh, yeah, it's taking out the big guns, but which is what people say. I was also thinking it kind of like last resort things. I will admit, I've been very positive for the past 10 months. It's getting hard to stay positive and confident, because since the beginning of the year, it seems to me every time I start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, it's like a road crew comes in and builds more tunnel.
Yeah, it's a fucking bum deal. It's like I said, it's a poorly written script.
Yeah.
Just new bad shit being thrown your way to see how much of a John McClane you really are.
Absolutely. Well, I hope I'm John McClane from 20 years ago and not Bruce Willis from now.
Call back.
Oh, yeah. You're right. We mentioned him already.
But that's perfectly understandable that it's hard to find, hard to stay positive when you're being hit in the face with a baseball bat.
Which is funny, because I've often over the 10 months been congratulated by people about how my outlook and how it's great that I stay happy and fun. But they haven't necessarily seen me when I'm either in pain from the cough or nauseous or have the bad news. It was easy being positive last summer when I'm doing chemo and it doesn't affect me, basically.
Yeah, because I've spoken to you quite a lot recently, and more often than not, you're in excruciating pain, which is obviously horrible to hear. And none of us can relate because none of us have been through it, but...
Yeah, I've had a lot of pain these days because the nausea got worse with this chemo than it has been. And the last day or two of chemo, I usually don't eat much. So then you're nauseous, and for the first time, it actually had me throwing up. but which is a bit of a pain when you have nothing to throw up, basically. So I was just hurting my throat even more, I think. And it's also, I think the cough mixed with the nausea is what made me throw up, because it's sort of hard to control your gag reflex when you keep coughing.
So what do you throw up when you have nothing to throw up?
It was just water, mostly. Because I continued drinking liquids, because that's very important to keep it, to flush out the chemo through my kidneys. And so yeah. And so now the next part of the treatment is a bit unclear, not unclear, but I don't know when it's going to start. I asked my doctor when we would be able to start this new chemo, and his basic answer is as soon as possible. He wants to get going with it because the metastasizing things are getting out of control. The tumors are growing, which is not fun.
Can I just ask, and it's a retarded question, but not...
Doesn't surprise me from you.
Considering how much these thingies have grown, is it a possibility that the last scan was wrong, that it didn't shrink?
I think that's very, very doubtful. I mean, my oncologist is not the only guy who sees it. It gets shown to a tumor board. I saw it with my own eyes. He showed me both. They compared them. I don't see how that would be possible.
Okay.
And so now the next part of the treatment won't be in Neuchâtel. It'll be in Lausanne at the university hospital there, most likely.
Where your brother lives. Your other brother.
He doesn't live in the university hospital, but he lives...
That's weird.
He lives in Lausanne, exactly. And that will be all I know so far about the kind of treatment it will be. Have you ever seen the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, Bubble Boy?
I have actually not seen it. I've seen the Seinfeld episode, but not the Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, nor have I, so I don't really know why I brought it up.
But Bubble Boy is a fun term or phrase or...
Well, yeah, all I know is that I'm going to have to go... Well, basically he said this new chemo is going to absolutely destroy my white blood count set. My white blood cell count. Like, destroy it. And I'll have no immune system left. So I have to do the whole treatment in I'm not sure it's a bubble, but it's a special room that has positive pressure. Everybody who comes in will be, I imagine, dressed like Dustin Hoffman in Outbreak kind of thing. I've been told I won't be allowed to eat any fresh foods, no fresh vegetables, because there's anything with a slight risk of getting an infection. And that will be for a few weeks, probably. I don't quite know yet.
So you're essentially sealed off from the world in an actual bubble for weeks.
That's it, exactly.
Do you know anything about how to get the blood cell count back up?
Well, yeah, part of it is they're going to do something which I should have looked up in English. In French, it's called autogreffe. Basically, they're going to have to also extract from my bone marrow, and then they do the chemo, and then they pump the bone marrow back in to try and get your white blood cells up again.
Well, there's a chance they'll put you under for that.
I hope so.
Well, you can ask.
Well, yeah. I imagine. But mind you, I don't know. It might be painful. It might not. People told me that having when they had to pull the fluid out of my lungs, I heard that was painful, but I didn't feel a thing. So I'll have fingers crossed that won't be painful. I'm just more worried about having had these past few days of feeling awful with the nausea and stuff. I just can't imagine what it's going to be like if I feel like that for 2-3 weeks, but worse.
As a plea to the Swiss medical community, it must be possible to knock you the fuck out while you're doing this, so you can be just drowsy. It must be more pleasant than being in excruciating pain.
It'd be nice if they could knock me out for like the whole 3 weeks.
Medically induced coma?
Yeah, why don't they do that for your chemo? Let's put you in a coma, solve my cancer, wake me up in a year.
That would be cool. You're not missing anything on Earth. It's just more COVID stuff, probably, and a war here and there.
The podcast would be a lot more boring, though. You'd be like, hey, Joe, how's it going? And I'd just be like, hey.
I'd be like, so you still have that opinion, eh?
That would be quite the show. But anyway, next week, or next episode we do, I should have more details on this, because I'm going to go meet, normally this week, the expert in Lausanne who will be in charge of my case. I've had to do several tests for him first, which were, so fun. The first one, an MRI right before leaving the hospital the other day, a brain scan this time. It was the first one I did where they hook your head up so you can't move it, and they put you head first into this tube. And it's funny because the CT scans I did and the PET scans, you can hear the vroom, 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 vroom of the thing turning.
Yeah.
This time, I guess something was turning, but to me, it just sounded like it was going, "Reet, reet, 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 reet." Don't know what the sound was doing. I counted it 170 times in a row at one point because I was bored and had to stay absolutely still for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I did the same fairly recently.
Fun, isn't it? When you're sitting there lying still, thinking you're completely still, and then the guy in your earphone says, "Please be still." I'm like, "What? How can I be stiller?" Ben,
nice reference.
Then maybe the worst test I had to do was Friday, the day after getting out of the hospital. I had to go do lung capacity tests. So brought me in and they put me in this little glass booth. And bear in mind that I still have my cough and I'm nauseous. And they stick a plastic thing in your mouth, which is not great when you're trying to avoid your gag reflex, and tell you to, first of all, it was like, breathe really fast, then deepest breaths possible, then evacuate all the air. And I would do that, and she was like, more. And at one point, you're like, I can't anymore. And I would stop, and she'd open the door, and she'd say, "Yeah, sorry, even if you think you can't, you gotta continue, because otherwise we have to redo it."
Fuck me.
Because she has the numbers that are showing her that even if I think nothing's coming out, something actually is. So she needs me to continue. So I continued, and luckily I did pretty well, apparently. It took me 25 minutes. She said some people it takes 45 minutes because they have to redo it so often. It demanded a lot of concentration, though, on my throat area.
It's not a good time for you, my friend.
No, as we said, this was going to be a fun episode, wasn't it?
Very cheerful, yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything bad, but just because I've spoken to a lot of medical personnel in Norway, and I've mentioned this to you a bunch of times, but they find the Swiss lack of seriousness. And I'm not saying they're not serious and they take your condition seriously, but the pain, like my dad, the doctor, has said over and over that relieving pain is a bare minimum for cancer patients. That's the least you should worry about.
I mean, I would agree. That's my big takeaway of all this, which is a really brilliant insight, is that pain sucks. I don't like it.
You're not a fan.
No, pain and discomfort makes things worse. And it obviously then, I mean, it's a lot harder to stay mentally positive when physically it's not going and it sort of spirals out.
Yeah.
Another thing I find hard also is because, I mean, my parents, my friends all feel really bad and want to help, and sometimes see me, I could be hacking like an idiot. It happened the other day. I was like on the floor hacking for about 5 minutes, and people want to help you and try and find solutions, but that doesn't always help either. Sometimes I need to just be left to deal with it. Because people, and I know it comes from a good place. People want to help. People, particularly my mom, feels helpless, wants to do anything she can. But sometimes you just got to let me, I don't know, scream it out for a bit.
Yeah, and I know, but you're her baby. I mean, how can she not be on full alert? I know what you're saying, but
Well, I get that, and she is making an effort. I'm not mad at her before, and that's the problem also because of the pain. Sometimes it turns me into a dick. Because you get nasty, and I don't mean to, and I know that nobody takes it personally, but when you're feeling really, really shit and somebody's trying to, whatever they're trying to say to you, I've been quite nasty and yelled at my mom a few times, yelled at a few friends, just leave me the fuck alone kind of thing. But I think everybody understands why I do that, and everybody's just trying to do their best anyway, like me.
yeah, I mean, everyone understands that, and they understand the fact that it's both physically and probably mentally overwhelming to be in this situation.
Yeah.
And when the odds are stacked against you. But obviously people want to help. Like, I mean, I'm here and I want to help you 24/7, even though I know there's nothing I can do.
Well, you're usually probably the one who's the best at helping, because you'll send me a stupid joke or make me laugh, and that's really all and nothing else, nothing is going to help, as you say. So it's something to take my mind off it, rather than trying to concentrate on it and figuring out to solve a problem that is unsolvable, at least at that moment.
Yeah, fair. I can't object. I'm just gonna have to say whatever works for you, Joe. But I'm just saying for the record, and I know I can't relate, but if it was me, I would want to be drugged to the nines, if I could. Just because, Jesus fucking Christ.
I do have to say, I am feeling slightly better now than 3 days ago. I've been feeling terrible since the chemo. I guess I am flushing it out, and I'm getting a bit better. Still this cough, which is really, really exhausting, because you spend half your time trying to suppress it. But I do think this week will be better than last week.
That's good.
Plus, I mean, we said this was an episode with lots of bad news, but we're getting to the end. We should add some good news to it, no?
Yes. Go for some good news.
Go for some good news. Well, next week is going to be my birthday. That's not the good news. I was just thinking it's going to be my birthday on Thursday. Hopefully not my last, because I want to make it.
Let's hope so.
Because I want to make it to 42, which would be next year. At least 42, because that's the answer to the big question about life, the universe, and everything, right?
Apparently.
No, but the good news is that you're coming back to see me.
I am.
What is it? You just got over your cheese cancer and figured you wanted another round of cheese chemo or something?
I might limit the cheese intake. I'm coming down to spread joy, kill some alcoholic hobo from the bus, and hopefully just take your mind off shit for a few days.
Yeah, that's the idea. But even go up to the mountains and get some fresh air.
Yes, and it was your parents who more or less insisted on bringing me, which is very generous and very nice, and I very much appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to coming.
Which makes me feel bad about having just said that sometimes they're trying to solve the unsolvable when some of their solves do work, because that was a great idea. Having you come back did bring up my spirits, even when I was feeling shit in the hospital bed the other day. Just knowing you were going to come was great news.
I'm glad to hear it. They are good folk.
Good folks.
Folks.
But yes, sadly, I have no more terrible things to say, so we might be getting to the end of this episode.
I'm glad you have no more horrible things to say, because you've nailed that for this episode in terms of horrific news. But there's nothing to do but keep spirits high, even though it's hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, and counting down the days till I see you again.
Your mom took a photo of us when we hugged in the airport the last time, which is only, 2 months ago.
3.
We'll recap that moment, only this time in slow motion, and people will spread like Moses spread the sea.
That sounds like a plan.
It's going to be really hard to arrange a flash mob in French for me on an airplane, but we'll figure it out.
And speaking of people, remember to like and subscribe, please.
Yes, that's no longer a suggestion, that's an order. Doctor prescribes more followers, more subscriptions, more attention, more comments.
Which we thank all the viewers for our comments, because it is quite fun to always get some interaction after having dropped the episode.
Of course, we love all our devoted fans. It's just this is important. This is a documentation of a journey which has definitely had its ups and downs.
And downs.
Now it's at and downs and more downs. And now it's really, really down there. But what goes down can come up.
This is true. That's what I'm trying to do. And yeah.
That's the whole concept of roller coasters. There's no roller coasters that just go further down.
Yeah, but there's the other things. They all end up at the same place they started. So I don't know how good the analogy works.
We'll build a new type of roller coaster.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
We'll build a roller coaster that has sort of an elevator element. You start at the bottom, you end at the top.
That sounds like a plan. I'll let you think about that and and pack your bags, and I don't have anything more to add. Do you?
Just wanted to say, mushy mushy, I love you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Same as Demi Moore would say, ditto.
All right, let's leave the audience wanting more, and we'll see you again soon.
I just hope they don't want more cancer.
More healthiness. Having a ball is going to be, like we said, it's going to be a cooking show at some point with just spherical food and 2 healthy chats.
Exactly. So thanks for watching. See you next time. I hope.